What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Tennessee Football Talk. My name is Joey Petersen. We got a lot to get into on today's show. We're going to start off by talking about a little bit of Boo Carter. Josh Heupel explains why he was inactive for today's game against New Mexico State. And speaking of that game, I'm going to give you my instant reaction, my takeaways, and what to look forward to going into Florida week, as now we are focused on the Gators and heading down to Gainesville, getting the first win there since 2003. If this is y'all's first time watching, make sure you subscribe. Daily videos on the Tennessee Volunteers. Usually doesn't look like this. Usually we're in a studio, graphics package, all that stuff, but ripping it at home after this game because I try to get you guys videos as quickly as possible. All right, let's start with the Boo Carter situation. This was something that I don't want to say was unexpected, because we saw the fact that against Oklahoma, he played 0 defensive snaps and was only out there for special teams. And then obviously this team hasn't played since they took on Oklahoma 2 weeks ago. But Boo Carter was inactive for today's game, wasn't out there in warmups, didn't run through the tee with the team, just like all the other inactive players. They did exactly that. They ran through the tee still right before this game. And I think a lot of us kind of saw this coming. We all knew the Boo Carter experiment was kind of a failure, even though, we kind of saw the signs in the summer when he wasn't there at workouts, and then he had that de facto suspension, slowly worked his way back into the good graces of this coaching staff, football team. His snap count kind of kept rising throughout this season, and then it's taken a big dip after, I guess, the Kentucky game, and now we've brought to this moment. Well, of course, Josh Heupel was asked about why Boo Carter was inactive, why he wasn't on the field during this game against New Mexico State, and Josh Heupel said, at the end of the day, there's a standard that you have to meet to be in that locker room. He was not out on the field with us. That will be my last response to anything related to that for right now. So obviously, he's not going to go into this too much. We know Josh Heupel. We know he's one of those guys that loves giving coach speak, loves not getting too much into the weeds into things. But I think everything that we've seen over the past 4 months can lead us to believe that Boo Carter, we will not see him again in a Tennessee Volunteers uniform. Multiple reasons, right? He's fallen out of the good graces of this coaching staff. They can't trust him to not only play him on defense, they can't trust him to play him on special teams as well. And if he's really dealing with a hip flexor injury, then he's not 100% fully healthy. I would be absolutely shocked if you saw him out there on the field against Florida, if you saw him out there on the field against Vanderbilt. It seems like he's tired of this coaching staff. It seems like this coaching staff is tired of his antics, and it's best for those two to come to a mutual divorce, should I say. And I think that's exactly what it's going to be. I think Boo Carter's excited to get out of Knoxville, and I think the head coach and the coaching staff, and honestly probably the players as well, are excited to get Boo Carter out of Knoxville as well. What's next for him? Who knows? If you asked his mom, based on what she's been posting on Facebook over the last 5 months, you got to think Deion Sanders in Colorado are going to be in play. You got to think Kirby Smart in Georgia are going to be in play. I mean, he's a really talented player. That's the frustrating thing about all of this, is that he would have been awesome on this football team this year if he gave it the effort, the work, the want to that is required of him, that's required of anybody if they play football in the Southeastern Conference, if they play college football in general. If he had an ounce of that desire, an ounce of that work ethic, then he would have been an unbelievable player, because you see the talent is there. That's the reason they didn't want him to transfer last season when he threatened to enter the transfer portal. There's a reason that they paid him more money, because all of us were saying, look, it's Boo Carter. Give that guy what he wants at the end of last season, before we knew that any of this was going to happen. It was a risk, and it wasn't a good one, because obviously you're sitting here right now. It's November 15th, and he is practically not on this football team anymore. And I think it's for the best. I think it's going to be good for this team to kind of get rid of that distraction. And, heck, if he's going to make anything of his football career, maybe he'll need a new stop to do it. Maybe he'll need another coach. Maybe he'll need new teammates. But just given everything that he's put this team through over the last 4 or 5 months, it's going to take a lot more than just new scenery to get Boo Carter to start taking this game seriously, start taking his collegiate career seriously, and really live up to what his talent suggests he should be. Okay, let's talk football now. 42-9 was the final score against the New Mexico State Aggies. There's a lot to like from this game. There's a lot to honestly dislike from this game. I think we'll start with that. Joey Aguilar's turnover problem seems to still be there. This was something that when he transferred from UCLA, everybody was saying he's got a lot of talent. His ceiling is really high, but he has an affinity to turn the football over. And through the first 5 or 6 games, we really weren't seeing that. The turnover numbers might have been there, but a lot of those turnovers, like one of them against Georgia, like 2 of them against Mississippi State, were literally off the hands of wide receivers or tight ends. And so, yeah, you had the turnover problem there, but I think we could all see those numbers be like, yeah, but those weren't his fault. And then you had a ton of turnovers in the Oklahoma game, a lot of them being his fault. And both turnovers, both interceptions tonight. Sure, he got hit a little bit after he threw that second one, but that first one just wasn't a great ball. Maybe Miles Kitselman could have made a play on it, but I'm not going to put that one on Miles Kitselman. But still, man, I think that is a worry going into these last 2 weeks of football because Vanderbilt's got a good defense. Florida's got players on that defense that will be playing on Sundays in the next year or two. And so that's got to be something that gets cleaned up if you're Joey Aguilar. Plain and simple, you got to be better with that. This team kind of struggled to run the football today. I mean, sure, they ran for almost 200 yards and found the end zone 4 times with the running backs, but still, I don't ever think there was, I didn't ever, how do I put this? There weren't a lot of times where I was incredibly impressed with their ability to run the football against a team like New Mexico State, where I felt that they should have just dominated them on the ground. Another big takeaway from me is Braylon Staley in 2026 is going to be unbelievable. I am so excited to watch him in this team next year when he's got another year under his belt. He's got a full offseason of progression. And, man, I just think he's going to be a star. 5 catches for 58 yards tonight, touchdown. I believe that's his 6th touchdown of this season, and he just continues to surprise me. I think going into this year, there was a ton of excitement on Chris Brazzell. I think there was the most excitement on Mike Matthews, and Braylon Staley has been it's probably still Chris Brazzell. Easily, that's been your best receiver this year. But I would say there's a closer gap between Braylon Staley and Chris Brazzell than there is between Mike Matthews and Braylon Staley, just from what you've gotten out of those guys this year. Just been incredibly impressed. Cannot wait to see what he does next year. I thought this defense played well. They got stops when you needed them to. I thought the young linebackers proved and showed me a lot tonight. You got a lot of play for guys like Perlotte, from guys like Spillman, who I guess isn't a young linebacker, but still I got to see, and you got to see a lot from him tonight. I think my biggest takeaway, though, defensively, is you made stops when you needed to, especially off of those turnovers. And again, like I'd already said, the young linebackers, Jaden Perlotte, especially, showed me a lot to be excited about. William Inge was talking about Perlotte this week and was just talking about how excited you should be, how excited I should be, how excited we all should be to see that guy kind of progress as a football player throughout his years at Tennessee. He's just got all the tools. I thought David Hobbs was a game record tonight, both in run defense and in pass rush. I thought there was a lot to like from him as well. And just in general, I was excited about what I saw from this defense. Again, it was New Mexico State. I'm not going to get ahead of myself. I'm not going to say, that this defense has zero problems or anything like that. But again, you got to take away with what you can take away from games like this. I think it's another takeaway I've got. I cannot wait for this team and for this league to go to a 9-game conference schedule. I'm so sick. I love the late win. Sure, it's nice to pad the win total. But I'm so sick of it being November 15th and watching this team go up against a team like New Mexico State. Come on. I'm ready to get another SEC game in there and get some more excitement. And I think my last thing is, sure, Joey Aguilar didn't have his best game tonight, but, man, I think seeing George McIntyre and seeing Jake Merklinger there at the end of this game, of course, they haven't played a lot this season. They're still really young, but it just showed me how much of a savior that Joey Aguilar has been for this season. And if you don't have Joey Aguilar this year, man, you don't win near as many games as you have. I think you probably lose the game against Mississippi State, right? Maybe you beat Kentucky. You probably win your other non-conference games this year, but I mean, Joey Aguilar has been so great this season, and I think Merklinger and George McIntyre, they're just not ready, right? And they showed that tonight, and I don't think any of us expected them to be ready. I think what I did see, and it's kind of mirrored what I've seen so far this season, is I think George McIntyre has a far higher ceiling than Jake Merklinger, and I think we should expect to see George McIntyre be in competition for that starting role and maybe not as much Merk. Again, like Austin Price said a couple weeks ago, would not be shocked to see Merklinger hit the portal at the end of this year. All right, that's going to do it for today's show. Appreciate you guys for watching. We'll be back again tomorrow with another video. We'll be in studio. So look forward to seeing you guys then. Again, if this is your first time hanging out with us, make sure you subscribe to the channel.